Came to Believe, the spiritual adventure of AA as experienced by individual members. Good morning, this is Sober Readings, and it is Sunday, June 29th. This morning I'm starting Chapter 6, titled The Search. You are asking yourself, as all of us must, who am I? Where am I? Whence do I go? The process of enlightenment is usually slow, but in the end, our seeking always brings a finding. These great mysteries are, after all, enshrined in complete simplicity. That's from a letter from 1955 written by Bill W. The first story in Chapter 6 is titled Breakthrough. For me, the narrow spiritual path has been one of many and seemingly endless frustrations. 3 steps forward, 2 backward, or sometimes 4 backward. At first, words from the Big Book, from Alcoholics Anonymous Comes of Age, and from other AA literature constantly harassed me. Finally, the pamphlet Alcoholism the Illness, footnote that's now titled 3 Talks to Medical Societies by Bill W., forced me to read The Varieties of Religious Experience by William James. Bill W. spoke of the immense importance of this book to him. Who was I not to give it at least a look-see? Just try it for size, an AA friend suggested. As I read the book, skipping over anything I did not understand, which was a great deal on the first reading, it seemed that I was actually beginning to discern my own personal conception of my own personal God. Now at last I saw a real possibility that I might come to know the difference between the spiritual life and the religious life. It was indeed this breakthrough that encouraged me to pursue the spiritual beliefs of AA. I began talking with people in the program who said they were agnostic. To me, it was interesting and most helpful to become aware of their thinking through private conversation. Apparently, AA agnostics, at any rate, those I talked with, feel that when they speak out, even at closed meetings, their true ideas and sincerity are often misunderstood. My attendance at spiritual retreats held for alcoholics only also has been of immense value. Strangely, when I first started this direction of thought, it was inconceivable to me that there was or could be a God personal to me. Now, over 5.5 years later, I believe that this God or higher power of mine actually, and very definitely, loves me. To him, I am a complete and total world. He loves me as though I were the only person on earth or anywhere else. It no longer is important to my big-shotism to go around saying, I love God, because I now know myself well enough to realize that I change. I am not constant. It is important for me only to have faith that God loves me. That's from Teaneck, New Jersey. The next story is titled, I've Got It. For about 3 years in AA, I had sobriety, and that was all. There was something missing, and I knew that it was the spiritual side of the program. I had tried to find it in the steps and couldn't, perhaps because of my inability to use them as I should have. So I drifted aimlessly along in AA, sober but resentful, negative, and unhappy. After a glider crash, I was a glider pilot, which injured my back, I suffered from ill health, and my husband decided to take me away on a holiday. When we arrived at a little town on the east coast of South Africa, I was in a very bad mood. I walked along the beach and along a coral reef. I found a big blowhole where the water was sucked down and then spouted up, and the thought came to me that it would be a very good idea to jump into this hole and finish the life I was leading. I wasn't staying sober for anybody else. I was staying sober for myself. This I knew, and for myself, I didn't see any reason to go on living, to stay sober only to reach the state of mind I was in. While standing there contemplating suicide, I looked out to sea and saw a cloud. This didn't impress me very much, but I knew what a cloud was made of. At the same time, I saw the moon, a day moon, away out at sea, and this didn't impress me very much either. But then it came to my mind that out there, somewhere, there were stars. I couldn't see them, and yet I knew they were there. This began to have a profound effect on me and my train of thought. I looked at the waves. I saw them coming in and going out and coming in again. I thought, how useless, how senseless. In and out for millions and millions of years, and all they achieved, it seemed to me, was to break up rocks into tiny pieces and make sea sand. And then I thought of the grain of sand. That grain of sand was made up of atoms. Take the atoms away, and there would be no grain of sand. Remove the atoms from the rock I was standing on, and there would be no rock. And I, too, was made up of atoms. Remove them, and there would be no me. Remove the atoms from the world, and there would be no world. What held all the atoms together? What held each single atom together? I realized that the power holding everything together was my higher power. This power had created me, and I had the audacity to think that I could destroy that which was not mine to destroy. Within that moment, I changed completely. The thought went through my mind. You are negative no longer. You are now positive. A great feeling of uplift came over me. With the new joy that filled my heart, I ran down the beach toward my husband, tears pouring down my cheeks, shouting, "I've got it! I've got it!" He said, "Oh my God, you're drunk again." "No," I said, "the old me just died. You'll never see her again." And the new one had indeed been born. To this day, he's never seen the old one, nor have I. She died there and then on those rocks. From that moment on, I started going from one church to another, seeking. One day, somebody said to me, "Stop looking. God has not left. He is here all the time." There I was, back on the rocky beach, and then I knew that all the time he had been within me. That's from Port Elizabeth, South Africa. And finally, the last story for today is titled, "A Glacier Melts." I had been sober 18 months and felt physically and mentally in better health than I had for many years. I was very much involved in AA activities, but I remained agnostic about the higher power bit. I considered that I had come to AA for sobriety. I had sobriety, and AA was all I needed to keep me sober. Occasionally, I wished that I could say, as most AA members did, that my higher power was God. But the need for honesty had made a strong impression on me, and I knew that I would be unable to admit to a power higher than Alcoholics Anonymous until I was firmly convinced. One weekend, I made special personal plans, setting the stage. And the man included in those plans disappointed me. The actor didn't arrive on stage on cue. Without warning and apparently without any sufficient cause, I was plunged into a fit of hysterical crying and continued to become more emotionally unstrung. I had been hospitalized 6 years earlier as a psychotic, and now I was experiencing the same feeling of sliding into a pit of hellish torture. I felt as desperate as I had when I made my call for help to AA a year and a half before. But this time, I was sober. My daughter, age 15, became more alarmed than I had ever known her to be in my drinking years. She too began to cry from fright and suggested that I call a doctor or some of my friends in AA. I said to her, "Linda, no person can help me. I need God's help." That word God had come out automatically. Previously, I had been unable to say it aloud. Through tears, my daughter replied, "Mother, I think God has forgotten us." This response caused me to weep even more violently, and I sank into a hopeless depression. I had attended many AA meetings, and I had heard the ABCs in Chapter 5 of Alcoholics Anonymous repeated so often that the answer to my problem was waiting for me in this time of need. I was convinced that God could and would help me if I would seek Him. During the next 6 weeks, at times when I could be alone, I made a concentrated effort to determine what or who God was and what my relationship was to Him. Strange things began to happen. I had thought I was happy in that first 18 months of sobriety, but now everything began to look brighter. People seemed nicer, and I had moments of tremendous insight. It was as if words and sentences I had heard all of my life had a deeper meaning and were reaching my feelings rather than my intellect. It was as if my head and my heart finally had gotten glued together. I no longer seemed like two people in one, engaging in a tug of war. I experienced within this 6-week period a feeling of being totally forgiven, and never since have I felt the guilt that I had throughout my life prior to that time. More than once, I had a sense of presence, which I can describe only as being marvelously warm, uplifting, and comforting. Though I no longer cried while awake during this period, I awakened many times at night because my pillow was wet and cold. It was as if all this weeping were melting a glacier of ice around my heart, a glacier which had cut me off not only from the world of people, but from the real me. Afterwards, when I confided the strangeness of this time to others in AA, I was told that I had had the AA cry. It was a time of confusion, but I was particularly helped by seeing an appendix footnote in the first version of Alcoholics Anonymous, acquainting me with the book The Varieties of Religious Experience by William James, whose philosophy psychology is a large part of AA's pragmatic method of gaining sobriety and having a volitional spiritual awakening. As an example, James states, summarizing the views of Dr. E.D. Starbuck, "Now, with most of us, the sense of our present wrongness is a far more distinct piece of our consciousness than is the imagination of any positive ideal we can aim at. In a majority of cases, indeed, the sin almost exclusively engrosses the attention, so that conversion is a process of struggling away from sin rather than striving towards righteousness." As James describes it, I no longer felt like a divided person. After this period of 6 weeks, I was unified. Gone from my solar plexus was the time bomb that had always been there, waiting to go off. I believe that I had suffered not only from alcoholism, but also from grave emotional and mental disorders. Therefore, it was necessary for me to surrender not just to alcohol, but to something else. No one has said it better than Harry M. Tiebout, MD, in his pamphlet, The Act of Surrender in the Therapeutic Process. For a few, there seems to occur a phenomenon of which might be called selective surrender. After the effects of the initial surrender experience have worn away, the individual returns to pretty much the same person he was before, except for the fact that he doesn't drink and has no battle on that line. His surrender is not to life as a person, but to alcohol as an alcoholic. AA provided me a means by which I could overcome the compulsion to drink and, more important, a means by which I could achieve a personality change or spiritual awakening, a surrender to life. Though I have had problems and deep troubles since that summer 10 years ago, my faith has not been shaken. I cannot say that I have found God as I understand Him, but rather that I have faith in something which remains a mystery to me and which I continue to seek. Fresno, California. That's it for today's Sunday Came to Believe edition of Sober Readings. Thanks for listening, and until next time, don't drink, go to a meeting, and keep coming back. Have a great day, and of course, as my friend Larry says, best day ever.